A mother-daughter trip to Florida turns into a nightmare when a bull shark ventures along the shoreline, weaving its way between bathers. A split second after spotting the terrifying predatory shadow beneath her, 15-year-old Lulu Gribbin is in the fight of her life. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. 15-year-old Lulu Gribbin and her twin sister Ellie were on vacation from Alabama. It was the first mother-daughter holiday the twins had been on with their mother, Anne, and it was going to be one none of them would forget. The youngsters were visiting Walton County on the Florida Panhandle when disaster struck. It was meant to be the time of their lives, enjoying the pristine white sandy beaches, splashing about in the water and sunning themselves as summertime approached. On June 7, 2024, they decided to spend the day at the seaside. So after eating, they headed for Rosemary Beach. It was a perfect day. They threw a ball in the air, playing volleyball and rushing around in the sand. Then, to cool off, they splashed in the water along with countless other holidaymakers. Lulu and Ellie's mother left the girls to enjoy themselves and walked along to another section of the beach. But the girls weren't the only ones diving about in the waves. There was something else lurking below the surface. It had been drawn to the shallower waters in search for food. The noise and commotion from the splashes in the water, the smells and vibrations emanating from the shoreline, they all drew something stealthy and powerful nearer. It was a bull shark. Able to survive in both salt and fresh waters, bull sharks are found in rivers, along coastlines, and in the open ocean. Typically growing up to 8 feet long, though often exceeding 11 feet, bull sharks are considered one of the most dangerous sharks in our oceans. They are aggressive by nature and often venture into shallower waters where humans are more likely to be. Along with great whites and tiger sharks, bull sharks are responsible for the greatest number of attacks on people throughout the world, as Lulu was about to find out. The girls decided to swim to a sandbar that was a little distance from the beach. The seafloor dipped significantly from the shore, so they took with them a boogie board, which they borrowed from another tourist. As they neared the sandbar, Lulu felt her feet touch something. The water was relatively clear, and when one of them dived down to touch the bottom, she resurfaced with a sand dollar in her hand. The others all joined in, taking it in turns to grab a sand dollar from the sandy bottom. But their splashes and laughter sent vibrations through the water. The bull shark was coming closer. All of a sudden, the girls felt uneasy. It was almost a sixth sense that something was about to happen. A chill filled the air, and they decided to head back to the beach. None of them knew what to make of the strange feeling that came over them, but whatever it was, it sent them swimming back to the shore as quickly as they could. It turned out their senses were right. Unbeknown to the teenagers, just a few miles up the coastline, a shark was attacking a 45-year-old woman in the water at Watersound Beach. But the news hadn't reached those on Rosemary Beach yet. When they made it back out of the water, the girls dried off and sunned themselves on the sand. They chatted excitedly amongst themselves and then began chatting to another group of teenagers next to them. It wasn't long before this other group ran into the water and began splashing about as Lulu and her friends had done earlier. Lulu decided to join them for one last swim before heading back to their accommodation. It was a decision that would change her life forever. As the girls kicked about in the water, the bull shark came in to investigate. Then Lulu's friend Adele screamed, "Shark!" Ellie wheeled around to see Adele swimming for her life towards the beach. She knew she wasn't joking, and Ellie also dived towards the shore. The shark weaved through those in the water. It bit down on McCrae's foot, but it wasn't done yet. "Stay calm," Lulu shouted as she saw a dark shadow swimming towards her, but it was too late. Everyone was already rushing for the safety of the beach. When Ellie made it onto the sand, she spun around, and that's when she saw it. The water had turned a distinct cloudy red, and right there in the middle of it was Lulu. She was screaming for help, For a split second, Ellie froze. Seeing her sister pleading for her life was something that will haunt her for the rest of her days. Lulu lifted her arm up out of the water, reaching for Lila, who was closest to her, but her hand was missing. It had been bitten off by the shark. Blood poured down her outstretched arm and dispersed in the water. Lulu was in a state of shock. She couldn't feel the pain, but seeing her hand missing was one of the most terrifying sights of her life. In the commotion and sand-filled water, the shark thrashed about and then clamped down on Lulu's leg. She screamed out and kicked wildly, trying to pull her leg free. Then seconds later, the shark let go and swam away. Lulu then blacked out before she could make it to shore. When they dragged her onto the sand, Ellie could see just how devastating the injuries to her twin were. Not only was her hand missing, but so was most of her right leg. Her femur was showing. Most of the muscle and skin was torn from the bone. She was losing blood, a lot of blood. Also on the beach that day were a couple of trauma nurses and more medical professionals who rushed to help. Although none of them knew each other, their training immediately kicked in, and they worked efficiently and calmly as a team, applying pressure to Lulu's arm and leg, drastically stemming the bleeding and desperately trying to keep her alive. But nobody knew if she would make it or not. Lulu came around. She opened her eyes and could see everyone on the beach working on her. She told herself just to breathe and to keep her eyes open. She knew if she kept doing those things, then she might make it to the hospital alive. Moments later, emergency crews arrived, and Lulu was airlifted to Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola. She was rushed into surgery. When she arrived at the hospital, Lulu had lost 2/3 of her blood. Surgeons worked tirelessly to keep Lulu alive, but they couldn't save her leg. They amputated just above the knee. She was put on a ventilator until she was strong enough to breathe for herself. When Lulu woke up after her first major surgery, she looked at her mom and said, "I made it." 4 months after the attack, Lulu started back at school part-time. She is determined to become a doctor one day, a dream that she had thought she had lost following the attack. While she has suffered life-changing injuries, she knows that she is lucky to be alive. She is now advocating for an alert system to be put in place following a shark attack. Had she, her friends, or mother known about the shark attack just up the coast from them at Watersound Beach that happened 90 minutes earlier, none of them would have ventured into the water that day. Although they make the headlines when they happen and they send shockwaves through the communities, luckily, shark attacks are relatively rare. The year before, in 2023, there were just 69 unprovoked shark attacks in the world, 10 of which were deadly.